In the first two videos, we have seen how we can upload data to Power Query from a website or a folder and did some transformation to that data. In this video, we will focus on few more transformations like split column, group by, transpose, and much more that we can use on our data. If you are interested in learning Power Query, then I recommend you to watch all the videos of this series till the end, and we will cover from basics to high-end functions. So stay tuned and let's start the video. Hi guys, welcome back to Tech Reflections. I am Vikram and today we are here for the third video on Power Query, and in this video we will cover some basic transformation. If you have not seen the first two parts of this series, then I recommend do watch it. Link is there in the I button at the top right of your screen and in the description of this video. Now let's move to the Excel and see how we can automate the routine task with the help of Power Query. So this is the data we would be using for our today's analysis. This is the sales data for an Apple product store. So we'll go to Data tab for Power Query, and when we click on Data, we'll see this Get and Transform. And this is the group, or this is the ribbon group which we will be using for Power Query, which we have covered in our previous videos also. If you have not watched that, go ahead and check out those videos. And today, what we will be looking into is that we want to analyze the table which we have in front of us in this worksheet. So we can just click on somewhere within this table, and today, rather than clicking on New Query, we'll click on From Table. When we click on From Table, it opens this dialog box, Create Table, which means that the data, although it is having an appearance of a table, but this data is not in a table format. So what we can do is we can just cancel it. Why are we canceling and not creating a table from here? I'll come to that also. So rather than from there, we will create the table by clicking on somewhere inside this table and press Control T. And this Control T will select all the data within that data range we have, and it will ask us to create this as a table. Our table already have the headers, so we'll keep this as checked. My table has headers, and click on OK. When we do that, Excel will take us to a different toolbar, which is Design, and that is specific to this table. And here it will give us an option to name this table. Right now, by default, the name is Table 3. So we can change this by selecting this, and let's say we use the name as Initial Sales Data. There should not be any blanks in the name, and press Enter. So this is the name of the table. Earlier, if you would have created this table via clicking on the Data tab, it will not have allowed us to change the name of the table. So now, when this table is selected or any one of the cell within the table is selected, you can click on From Table, and it will directly open the Power Query window, the Power Query editor, which you all must be familiar with. We used this in our first and the second video. So for this video, what we will be doing is we will be focusing on few of the transformation, and all those transformations you can see under the Transform tab. So let's first let this data get loaded. In Transform, if you see, we have different options which we can do, and we'll cover a few of them today, and few we will be picking up in the coming videos. So the first one we will be looking into is Transpose. So if you see what exactly Transpose means, it changes the data, the vertical data into horizontal data, and horizontal data into vertical data. It changes the axis of the data. So how can we do that? Before doing this transpose, like if we do this transpose straight away, so what will happen is all the data which was there in rows have become the columns now, and all the columns have become the rows. But this way, the header the column header, it is given by the uh, Excel or the Power Query itself, because it feels these are not the headers. But let's say if we want these to be the headers, what we can do, by these I mean the order numbers. If we want these order numbers to be the headers, you can just click on that, and there's an option called use first row as header, and we can click on that. There are two options: use first row as header or use headers as the first row. So in our case, we want the first row as header. We click on that, and Power Query will make those order number as the header data or our columns. So this is the way transpose works. We need to see our use case where it is applicable, but that's how we do it whenever you want to change the row data into the column data, and the column data gets transposed back to row data. So now on the right hand side, if you see, there is some query setting tab pane, in fact, and in that pane, there is a name of this query which we have created. It usually takes the same name as table name, that is initial sales data. We can also change it on the basis of our requirement. And after that, there will be another pane where we have all the applied steps. So if you see whatever changes we have done to our data, recorded here, and latest one is we have changed the tariffs. Before that, we did the promoting of headers. We have transposed the table. So if we want to come back to our same data, we can just click a cross button just before that step. If we click on that, the data moves back to the original form. Promote the header, the order number comes back as the first row, and then if we delete this transpose, the data comes back into the original form. So this is how transpose works. Then the next transformation you can do in your data is if you want to reverse the order of your rows. Let's say the first row becomes the last row, and the last row moves to the first row. So that kind of operations you can do. There is a separate option for reverse rows. So if you select any of the column and click on reverse row, so it will change it. So now you have this data in a descending form rather than ascending, which was the earlier case. You can just click again on reverse row, and the data will be back as ascending. So now, because we have done this operation twice, so there are two steps now for reversing the rows. So coming back to the original data, again the same thing. We can delete it, delete this step by clicking on this cross. Okay, so this is how the reverse rows work. Then there is another operation like count rows, which will count all the rows that are in the data. You can click on that, and you see we have total 23 rows of data. So that's it shown here. You can again come back to our original data. These are the operations that we have already gone through, that is transpose, reverse, count rows, and then there is the next one which we will be looking into is data type. So what is data type here? So if you see in our table, for each and every column, there is a data type assigned to that column. So if you see the first column is order ID, when we say ABC is written in front of it, it means it's a text column. So when you select this, as this is already selected, so here you can see it's clearly defined data type text. But if I click on, let's say, the date part, it changes to date time. And then for store, it is again text. So this way you have data type assigned for each and every column. So showing the data type is one thing, but you can also change the data type. How we can do that is, we'll just, let's say there is a column called amount, which is currently a whole number field. Now, if we want that to be a text field, we can just click on this down arrow next to this data type, and then we click on text from here, and this will change this to a text type. It's just asking for a confirmation. We just replace current, and now you can see the alignment of this data is changed. For numeric, it is right aligned, but for a text, it is now left aligned. So it becomes a text field now. So this way we can change the data type of any of the column. But there is one more very good feature here, which lets us detect the column type. We'll come to that in a minute. We'll just click on the transform, and here, see, all these operations which we did was under transform tab also. You see transpose, reverse rows, and count, which we have already covered. In fact, we have covered use first row as headers also. Text type also we have seen and changed it. Now, there's another operation called detect data type. So now in this case, let's say although we have changed this to a text, but if we ask Power Query to detect what is the data type for this column, what Power Query will do on the basis of the data that is there in this column, it will detect the data type, and if we click on that, it will detect and automatically converts into a whole number, which means that it knows that this column is having a data of type whole number. So we can do that also. This way we can change the data type, or we can, if you are not sure about the data type of the field, we can ask Power Query to detect, and it can help us there also. Now let us see, and let's come up with a query. So this is all the operations. Depending upon your need, you can have that query created. Now, let's say if for our query, the scenario we are looking for is there is a field called product in the product field. And let's say if you want to see the total number of units sold for each and every product, so how can we do that? So in that case, what we will do, there is an option called group by. That's the first one under the transform tab. We select this column product, click on group by, and it will open I think it's taken a little longer. Yeah. Okay. So now it is open. So now it is asking us that which column we want to group by, specify the column. So our column is product here. And then what is the new type of, what is the name of the new column that gets created for that count on which we are grouping it. So let's keep it as count. And then next it is asking for the operation, for grouping, what operation we want to perform. So what we want to do here is we want to add up all the units sold for that particular product. So we'll just select sum operation here. And then it is asking which column, on which column we have to do this operation of sum. So we have to do it on units column. Okay. And see, we have this data gets formatted or transformed in a form where all the products are shown on the left hand side in the first column, and the count of the number of units sold for that particular product in the second column. So now we can just go back to home and load this data back to our Excel sheet. So when we click on that, usually this Excel creates a separate sheet where it will create that query and post that data. So in this case, another sheet 3 is created, and all the data that we saw in the Power Query editor is now loaded into our Excel sheet. So, this is the first query we plan to look into. But now, in all of our earlier videos, also we have seen one query in an Excel sheet. But today we'll see that we can have another query, or we can have multiple queries within a single workbook. How are we going to do that? We will see in our next example. So if you are finding this video useful and interesting, then do like this video and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you get notified when the next video will be published, and we will get the motivation to bring more such content. Now coming back to the query again, we go back to our initial data. So this is the initial data, and again we'll go back to data and click on from table. So if you see, the earlier query was created with the same name as our initial sales data table name. So this time, because we are adding more query to it, it's better to have a separate name, although our query itself will put a name to it, but you can always change that name. So let's say in this case, let me change this to model sales. Okay, so that's the name we have kept it for our query. And in that, in this, what we are going to do is we want to see only, in fact, we only want to see rather than model, we should have product sale rather than product and model sale. So what's the difference? Earlier, if you see one of the product, iPhone 12 Pro M1, this is the product along with the model name, and the data that we filtered out or the query has created is it has grouped by on the basis of the product name plus the model name. But this time we are interested in only the product, not the model. So in this case, what we want to see is how many iPhone 12 are sold, irrespective of whether they are pro or simple one or whatever. So can we do that? We that For that, what we need to do is, first of all, we need to break this down, this particular column into where we have the product, and then another one is the model. So how can we do that? So we click on this column. Okay, so this column is now selected, and then there is an option called split column. This option is under transform also. Wherever you want to click, you can just click on split column. And now it is asking by delimiter. What exactly is delimiter? Coming back here again, you see our data is delimited by spaces. So after iPhone there is a space, then after 12 there is again a space. So all these are delimiters. So we can split the column on the basis of these delimiters. If you click on that, these are the ways on which we can split our column. We can split on the basis of delimiter, by the number of characters, by position, and so on and so forth. Now, for let's say we want to do it by delimiters. So we click on by delimiter. It will open another window where it will ask us what delimiter we want to consider. Okay, so now it has already selected with that we want space here. Now it has given the space delimiter is automatically selected. We can even change this, but at this point of time, we are interested in space only. Now there are multiple spaces in our data. So where exactly we want to split? We want to split on the leftmost delimiter. We click on the leftmost delimiter radio button, and that's it. You can click on OK. And here you can see it has changed, split this column of product into two columns, product.1 and product.2. These names are given by default. And now it is clear that in the product.1, we have all the product names, and in the product.2, we have all the model names. So what we can quickly do, we can just rename this column name also. We can do it either by double clicking it, and let's say if I remove this and press enter, so this becomes the column name as product. And in this, we can do it from a toolbar also. There is an option called rename. Click on that, and it will come into the rename mode. And this will we change it as model. Press enter, and then this is also changed. Now we will want to do the same thing, that now we want to do the group by. This time we want to do the group by on the product. So we'll select this product, again go to group by, and this will again open this group by window. We have the product, that's fine. We want to have the column name as count, which is okay. But we can even say total units in this case, let's say total units, and we want to sum it, and we want to sum on the basis of the units, and we click on OK. So now it's now on the basis of the product name, that is iPhone. Now it has clubbed all the units that are sold for iPhone, that is 20, and it is there. And now we can again go back and upload this, close and load. So this is the second query we have created in the same workbook. And here again, it has created a new worksheet, that is sheet 4 for us, where this new query is, is loaded. So sheet 3 was the earlier one where we have this iPhone 12, where 4 units were sold. And in sheet 4, we have total iPhone units as 20. So now what we do is, one additional thing we are doing here is, now we have some additional data. Let's say we have 3 more rows of data, which we copy in our original data. So let's say we got the sales, 3 more units of sales here, 3 more rows of transactions here. So what we will do, we don't need to go back into the same procedure of doing everything again. We can just come back to the sheet, click on this, and we have a separate tab for query. Click on that, and here there is an option to refresh. If you refresh this, it will refresh only this query. And there is another way of doing it. When you go to data, there is a refresh all. With the one click, you get all the data of whatever number of queries you have. All the queries get refreshed, and the new data gets added to that. But let us go one by one. So in this case, I go to query, I'll refresh. So now there is additional rows here where we have iPhone 12 Pro and 2. There's 1 unit sold here. And if we go here, there were iPhone 20 units were sold earlier. And now let me refresh this. Click on anywhere inside the data and click on query, and then you refresh it. See what's the change. Now there is additional 1 unit sold for iPhone here, and which gets added right here. So this is how you create multiple queries within Power Query in one sheet, in fact in workbook. And there are different transformations you can do on your data. We have covered few of them here. We will cover more in our subsequent videos. Now drop a comment and let me know if you have learned something new today, and if you want me to cover any specific transformation in this video series on Power Query. And this is all we have for today's video. You can check out more videos on Excel, Google Sheet, PowerPoint on this channel. Link to those videos and playlists will be there in the description of this video. Enjoy them, and I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Goodbye.